Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this episode of Live with Sandra V. As you well know, hold on. My phone was supposed to be on silent. Okay, I'm back. There's always some little glitch, isn't there? Anyway, I want to welcome everyone today. As you know, that the topic for today is laminating fabric for a roller shade. And I am going to reveal something that it took me years to decide to make a laminated roller shade because I just felt like the whole process was going to be a little intimidating, daunting, and messy. But I proved myself wrong whenever I did my first roller shade a few years ago. It wasn't all that, and it wasn't daunting or messy, and it was actually a lot of fun. So I'm hoping that by the end of today you'll have a better understanding how to make them, and that you will make your first one, and it will be a blast, and you'll love it, and you'll be making it for you and your clients. Now, real quick, before I dive into today's conversation, I want to take a moment to introduce myself to some of you that I may not have met before. My name is Sandra Van Sickle, and I have over, it's hard to say this, 4 decades of experience in the custom window treatment industry. And I have to say that I really am loving this part of my life where I am now rewired, not retired. And this platform really does allow me to really educate and inspire, hopefully, and promote others in the industry. Now, our session for today is going to last for about an hour, and I'm going to encourage everyone out there to say hello to one another, and if you have questions, put a Q in front of them, and then that way I will get to your questions a little bit later. If I see something that pops up that needs addressing right away, then I will do it. So for right now, if everyone would just give me a shout out and say, I can hear you, that would be great. Let me make sure. I think you can because I just heard myself on my phone. So anyway. There's always a little lag that comes through. So anyway, I'm going to start by going over some of the benefits of, okay, good. I'm going to go ahead and start by going over some of the benefits of doing a laminating shade. And well, number one, it allows you to use an array of fabrics to customize a shade that suits you and your client's taste, right? And let's face it, not everybody wants a Roman shade, right? You know, and not everybody wants a plain shade or a woven wood. So it's really nice to be able to offer your clients something that is really customized. And that's why, well, I made this shade because I absolutely fell in love with the fabric. And I said, you know, it really, if you can see, it goes to my branding colors. And I said, I've got to have a shade made out of that. So yeah, so there you go. You can really customize the shade. And they really do have a nice, clean finish. Wouldn't you agree? And what I really love about them is that they allow you to really showcase the fabric because, you know, you don't have a lot of stacking to it. I don't know, it just looks smooth, and I don't want to say simplistic, but it does have a nice clean look to it. Right now, these shades can stand alone. You can put them up on a window or a door by themselves with a little valance over the top, or you can tuck them behind a cornice board or a valance. And you know, because they roll up, there is no need for rings. And even better than that, they can be operated by spring, roller, clutch, or motorization. All right. Now, I want to touch on fabric a little bit because that is key, obviously. When you choose your fabrics, you're going to want to choose a fabric that, make sure I get the right button here. that is probably a linen or a cotton blend. And I'm going to recommend that you always test a small sample first before you make the whole shade. You need to make sure that the adhesive will accept the fabric, or the fabric's going to accept adhesive, and that there won't be any discoloring of the fabric. Now, I will tell you that I have, and I know I just said cotton blends, but I have tested a piece of silk. I've had a lot of people ask me, and I thought, I don't know, let me test it. And whenever I did, that particular piece of silk did fine. The adhesive did not discolor it. But there was a issue with that silk. It was embroidered. And when you make these shades, because you have to roll them up on a tube, and they need to be square. You're going to hear me say that a couple of times, that these shades need to be square. And if you are going to have a fabric, like unembroidered fabric with all the ups and downs of the embroidery on there, when you roll them up, they're just not going to roll nicely. Okay, so I would stay away from that. But anyway, let me go back to that silk. So if you want to use the silk, test it and make sure that it works for you first. All right. Now you can also use sheer fabric. I have tested a piece of sheer fabric, and it really gave the shade a really nice texture look. And you might think, well, why are you going to use a piece of fabric and laminate it on a shade? Well, if you or your client has sheer drapery, then why not use that sheer fabric on the shade so that it matches? Okay, and like I said, it gives it a really nice texture too. Okay, now you will, let me put this to the side for a moment. You'll be laminating the fabric onto this room darkening window shade cloth. Now, I did purchase this from Rolly Company, and I think I'm seeing the names out there, and many of you probably already purchased from them. And this fabric, this shade fabric, has fiberglass inner layer, and it minimizes the curling on the edge, and it really helps the shade lay flat. Now, because of the shade here and being room darkening, it also prevents the fabric from fading from the back. This can be railroaded, and this can be used as a stand-alone shade all by itself. So if you need to, you can use it. If you have a client who has who wants just a white shade and you can't get your hands on one right away, well, when you get done for today, you'll understand that you can use this, put a hem on it, and go ahead and put it on your tube. Simple as that. All right, so it is flame retardant, and it comes in widths of 36, 54, and 72, and then you buy it by the yard. And I think with Rolly, I should have checked this for you, but you can probably all have your catalogs. It comes in different increments. All right. Okay, so now the additional supplies that you're going to need for today are, let me get my overhead so you can see. Hang on, wrong button. Is a Rolly laminating adhesive and fray away. Now the fray away will come in handy if you have a fabric that, or you just need to seal the edges, I should say. Okay, so you can use that, and I will tell you a little bit later too that how you can use the laminating adhesive to seal your edges as well. Okay, let me put this to the side. I'm going to need room on my table. You will need 2 low nap rollers. Now, I will tell you that I have purchased these from the dollar store. I have searched high and low for the most inexpensive ones to use, and these were the ones I found. You will need a pencil and a marking pen, a fabric marking pen. You'll need some wonder clips, some tape. I'm going to use blue painter's tape, but you can certainly use masking tape if you have that handy. A good pair of scissors. Or if you're someone that really prefers a rotary cutter over scissors, then you can certainly use that. And of course, if you use your rotary cutter, you would need your mat for that. You will need a square, and I have the metal one. And also I have my quilter's grid handy, just in case I decide to use that. And you will need your headrail system. Okay, now I have one here on a board, but I have my tube by itself. And then you will also need the wooden slat to go into the bottom of your shade. And if you decide that you want to go ahead and add some trim, then you can go ahead and have some of that handy as well. All right, now I'm going to get some of this out of my way because I don't need all of it here. Some of it I do, some of it I don't. Let me put this in my pocket. That's why I wear an apron. Okay, and I'm going to move this out of the way for a second. Okay. Put that there. All right, so let's begin by preparing the fabric. When you take a look at the fabric that you've chosen, okay, you're going to roll it out. And of course, you're going to take a really good look at it and decide what you want to center, right? Well, you're going to cut your fabric at least 2 inches wider on each side. So you're going to take whatever the finished width of your shade is going to be and add 4 inches. 2 inches for the right and 2 inches for the left. And then you're going to take your finished length and you're going to add on 14 inches. Now this is going to allow for a 2-inch bottom hem, and it's going to allow for 12 inches to roll onto your tube. And you will want to roll some fabric onto the tube because it will give it a nice grip on there. And once you have some fabric on here and you've put your shade up, that it also covers the tube. You do not want to have it where your fabric is kind of laying off of that tape up here. It's double stick tape up here. And once your shade goes up and down, you don't want that just on the edge of like this, because especially if you have a spring system and if you're pulling that shade down, it can keep pulling against that double stick tape. Okay, so you're going to have, like I said, 12 inches extra to roll here, and then your 2 inches that's going to be tucked later for your hem. Okay, now if when you begin to plan for your cuts, right, of course, then make sure that if what you're wanting to center on the for the shade or whatever, and then on your edge, you're right here where the selvage is, make sure you cut that selvage off, because we all know what happens a lot of times is that that selvage will tend to pull on that that grain. Okay, and make sure when you cut this that you will cut it square. And yes, Bob, I see this is being recorded and will be available. And let me quickly mention that at the end of the session, you will receive, if you registered, and you did if you're here, that you will receive the link to the recording. Okay. All right. Good question. All right. Now, you will then make sure that your fabric has been pressed and that it is wrinkle free and that it is also free from any lint, because the last thing you want is to have a piece of lint up underneath here. And I can actually see I have some on this one on the back, because when you begin to adhere it to your cloth, you'll have these little bumps up underneath, and you don't want that. All right? Okay. After you have cut your fabric, you will want to take a piece of cardboard tube, and you're going to roll it on here so that it stays nice and neat. And you'll begin at the top of your shade, and you're going to roll it just like this, all right? And so, like I said, the top is tucked up underneath here, and this is your bottom edge. And you'll see why that's important in a few minutes, right? Next, you're going to cut your shade fabric. And the shade fabric is going to be cut, you can cut it 2 or 3 inches wider, but 2 is actually fine, and especially if you're going to be using your square, and you've got a 2-inch width on your square. And in a minute, I'll show you why. Okay, so you're going to cut your shade fabric 2 inches wider than what you've cut your fabric. Okay, and you can cut it 2 inches longer on the top and the bottom than the length that you've cut your fabric. Okay. All right. Let me see here. Hold on. I hit my mouse. I can't see your. Okay. I'm reading some of the comments. All right. So and then again, use your square and cut out your shade cloth fabric. And now that that's done, we're ready to move on to add your fabric to your cloth shade. I'm going to roll this out of the way. I had to do some prep work so that we can move along today and we're not out of time. Got to move this out of my way. Move it where it doesn't fall. All right, so now I have placed the shade cloth on my workroom table here, and I have taped it down on the 4 edges because you do not want this to begin to shift on you as you're rolling the lamination on there. All right, so secure it onto your table. Then there's 2 sides, and I had a question whenever I started working on it. There's kind of a matte side and kind of a bumpy side, and it really doesn't matter which side that you use, but I would say that if you're using a sheer fabric, then go ahead and use the matte side. It just seems to be kind of smoother to put that on. All right. Now that I have it taped down, I'm going to take my T-square. Okay. And I've already marked it. Again, I just want to keep things moving here for us. And what I was talking about, having the 2 inches extra on each side, it's easier this way because you can get it, it's easier to square it off if your T-square is 2 inches as well. So I can see through my painter's tape. I can see the edge here. Okay, and plus I've already marked it ahead of time. I cheated a little. Okay, so I can place this right here on the edge, and I can see through my painter's tape. I can see it. You may not be able to. And I put my square right here. Okay, and I've taken my pencil. And you want to, well, why I'm doing this is because this is going to be your guideline when you begin to place your fabric onto this cloth. So I'm just going to mark it. And I'll tell you, this was the part that was worrying me the most. I'm thinking, oh, how am I going to get this square? And this was the daunting part for me. Put it this way if I want to. Just so I can get all the way over here. And it wasn't as bad as I thought. Sometimes we tend to worry too much. Okay, so there you go. All right, now I can move this out of the way. Okay, and again, I'm going to have too much on my table. I'm going to make sure, I'm going to run my hand across here, and I'm going to make sure that there's no little threads on here that do not need to be here, and that there's no lint, okay? And there's not. And then, okay, we have my fabric. Then I'm going to take the laminating adhesive and I guess it would help if I had a little paper towel here just in case I get it on my fingers. Okay, so then you're just going to begin by pouring it on here. And you're going to be kind of generous with it because you're going to find out that the roller will tend to soak up some of the adhesive. Now I have a roller that I used yesterday as I was preparing for everything. So I wrapped it in just like you do if you're painting, I wrapped it in a plastic bag and put it in the refrigerator so I could reuse it for today. So if you're doing, I guess, multiple shades in over a couple of days, then you can do that and save your roller. One more thing too that I want to talk about is when you start doing these shades, that they need to dry overnight. So if I know I'm going to do them, I plan ahead, and I have this laid out as my last task for the day because it will take up my table space, and then by the time I come in the next morning, I'm ready to move on and begin finishing up the shades. So think about that too. Put that in your planning. All right, so we're going to take the roller, okay, and we're going to just start to roll. Now, see, my roller picked up something, so make sure that that comes off of there. And I really do need a paper towel. That's one thing I did forget. Okay. Now, that's my tape. And see, I am putting the adhesive over that line. And that is why you cut your shade fabric wider, right? Because you want the adhesive to reach the side so that it glues everything down. You don't want to stop short and not have the adhesive all the way to the edge. Okay, you can begin rolling it, and I probably should have used masking tape on this. I did have it taped down to my regular table, and to be honest, it was a white table and it was too much white for the camera, so that's why I put it back down here, and I should have retaped it. So make sure you all tape it down really well. Okay, and you can see that it will start to tack up on you, and the first time you use your roller, like I said, it's going to soak up the adhesive. Okay, but you want to make sure that, and roll in different directions so that it's well covered. Okay, and I know I have some lint on here, and I will come back and remove it. Just a minute. And I've got this taped on a piece of wool, so usually on my regular table it doesn't move on me. Okay, and it will start to tack up. I use a brush. You could, I think, a paintbrush. I've not thought about that. I think to me that a roller is easier, and just roll it on there. Like I said, I apologize for my popping up on here. We just don't ever know what's going to happen on camera. Can't predict everything. And you'll see how it bumps up, and you will think, oh my gosh, it's not adhering, but it is. Okay. I guess I get to the edge and do it. And like I said, be generous. All right. And if you're doing multiple projects, go ahead and get the gallon. It does go a long way, but all right. Okay, I think we've got it. And then just check and make sure you've got all the spots are covered. And it looks like I do. All right, now I'm going to take this roller. Now it's up to you at this point if you want to take this roller and wrap it up and throw it away, or if you're going to, like I said, do another day, another project the next day, you can save it. But honestly, that's going in the trash today. Okay, right. So I'm going to go back here because I did have some little specks that were on that roller. And remove it. Okay. See, I can't fake anything here. I'm not pre-recording it. This is all live, and this is good because this is what can happen in real life. All right, hang on. I got to get this glue off my finger. All right. Okay. All right, next we're going to take and put the fabric onto the shade cloth. All right, so remember this is the bottom of your shade, and this is why I had you roll it the way you did, because it makes it much easier when placing it down here, right? So I'm just going to take this and align it in that corner, and align it on the bottom. Like this, and then I'll begin to roll it, lay it down, and as I roll the fabric, I'm going to just start to smooth it with my hand. Okay, and if it gets off a little bit, I can lift it and move it over to this line here. And again, I probably should have just gone ahead and re-taped this. Use masking tape. I guess you can't use painter's tape for everything. But again, I have it on wool here, not my regular table. So, okay, so I'm going to roll it out. Again, if it begins to shift, just go ahead and rub your hand, okay? And so then just take your hand, and that's just going to roll off of there. And make sure it's right at the bottom. And if there's any bubbles in here, then just smooth them out. Make sure that's even. And as it's wet, you can lift it up and reposition it should you need to. Yep, see, that's right along that edge. And it's nice and square. All right, I'm just going to use my fingers. And I want to feel and make sure that there's no lumps and bumps and all the air bubbles are out. Okay. And, all right, now you can take the other clean roller again, and as you use this roller, you can just give it a, press it down, give it some pressure, and just begin rolling it back and forth. Stay away from the adhesive edge as much as possible, because you don't want to pick up the adhesive and get it onto the face of your shade. Okay, just give it a little roll. You can roll in different directions. Okay, and I think we've got it. Right? Again, I'm going to make sure that my edges, I'm going to use my fingers. And again, this is why we cut the face of the fabric wider and why we cut the face of the laminating cloth wider. Because we're going to come back in here and we're going to trim off, you know, these 2 inches, and we have a nice layer of adhesive up underneath these areas, you know, where the 2 inches where we're going to cut off. Okay, and if we missed some of these edges here, and they're not adhered real well, then they will bubble up. Okay, So I hope that makes sense. Okay, that's done. And I can take the roller out of the way. And I'm actually going to move this out of the way, but I would have, if this was in real life, I would leave this on my table and let it dry overnight. Okay, so I already did that yesterday. So I'm going to put this on the floor and replace it with this one here. How do I know when I have enough on the shade? You will see it on there once you roll it on there, and you'll see how it kind of bubbles up a little bit and it gets tacky, and you know that you have enough, and you'll be able to see if there's an area that you didn't cover. Okay, and if you didn't, just go back and roll that on there. But like I said, you don't. There's a fine line, I guess, between putting too much on there. Maybe not, but because you've already tested your fabric, so you know it's going to work okay. But what happens if you miss adhesive in the middle? How do you retack it? If you know that you have, and you've put it down, you know that you have. I guess that you could take your tube and unroll it and put it on and roll it back very carefully. But I think if you follow this method where you just pour it on there and you begin to roll it and you just go back and forth and you just check it, then you'll be fine. Okay? I hope that helps. All right. So we smoothed it out and we rolled it out, and so now we've let it dry overnight, and we're going to begin to trim it off. Okay, so I will take my T-square, okay, and I've already planned it out, and I have allowed. I know how wide I want my shade to be, and for this one here, I know that I need to. I don't have 2 inches on here. I will be honest with you. I don't have 2 inches on here, but I just have like 3/4 of an inch. But you will have, 2 on yours. But if you were running short of fabric, know that you can go down to like 1 inch. All right. So I am going to. I've measured how wide my shade, the finished width of my shade is going to be, and I've marked both edges. All right, and now I'm going to put my T-square on here and line it up with my bottom and my side, and you can take a fabric marker. Where did I put my fabric marker? Okay, and I'm going to mark it. Again, I did some of this ahead of time so that we can move things along today. But again, but definitely, testing your fabric is I think, a key factor when using the adhesive and your different fabrics, because you don't want to use too much of it so that the fabric soaks it up and makes it look like it's glued. But then again, you need to have enough on there to make sure that it adheres. But it's not as daunting, I keep using that word, as it sounds. Okay, so I'm going to mark this. Okay, I can move this up just to get to the top. All right. Okay. Now this is where you can use your rotary cutter and a cutting mat, or you can use some really nice sharp scissors. And I did something I should have never done yesterday. And I had have a big cutting mat that I was going to use today, but it was out in my shed, and it's like 12 degrees outside, and it got cold, and I took it down from the box and I dropped it, and it went to pieces like a piece of glass. So I couldn't use a rotary cutter today. So I'm going to use the scissors. So I'm going to start at the bottom here and begin to cut, and cut as straight as you can. And I would say that rotary cutters are probably best because you know, you have a nice straight edge. But just because, and sometimes you can take it, and if you've got really nice scissors, you can scooch it. Okay, just glide your scissors along the edge. Right. I saw, are you going to go cover the over reverse roll? Yes, that's what's great about doing your own shades too. You can put this on either way you want. You can do reverse, or you can have it flow off the front. You can do the front of the roller tube, or you can have it come off the back, whichever you prefer. And I think with the reverse roll too, with your system, sometimes you have to put your spring on the opposite side. With some systems you do, I believe. Okay. Okay. Cut my bottom. Like I said, just keeping it square. And I just love this. I really do. I think it makes a really nice shade. And it is not hard at all. And I promise you, the minute you make your first shade, you're going to be so excited. And you're going to be ready to make more. They can be inside mount. Now, if you're going to do an inside mount, remember with... good question. With roller shades, probably should wait till the end to answer that, but remember with roller shades, you do have to consider the brackets and all, and do you see how much they take up? And you have to really look at the window and see, this is where your shade, the fabric's going to be, but you still have, if this is inside mount, you still have this area on the right and the left that is not covered by the shade. So consider that, because there will be a lot of light gap there on inside mount. So I think it really depends on how much light gap will be shown. Okay, so I'm going to turn this around, and I'm going to use my T-square, and I'm going to mark for this too. No, Bob, I do not think so. That's a good question too, with all the heat. No, well, I'm not one that can guarantee that, but if you all use roller shades in that area, then I think you should be okay. I mean, I'm probably not the one that can answer that 100% for you. And then you come back and say, Sandra, no, but I think it's going to be okay, because all the adhesive is really on the inside, and it's meant for windows. So and I have not heard anyone say, "Oh, that won't work." I know some folks that are in Georgia that have them, and I've never heard them say, "Oh, that doesn't work." Now, Georgia may not get all the heat you do, but it gets some heat. Okay. Okay, so now we have it cut out, right? There's our shade. Here's the bottom. Okay, now I want to make sure I cover everything. Throw that down here. Now that I have the bottom of my shade here, we can take this is where get rid of my adhesive. This is where you can take your grid, and with a fabric marker, and always test your fabrics. I don't care what you use. Test, make sure it works. You have your 2 inches here, and you'll take and fold this up. The 2 inches. Give it a fold. Mark. Fold it, and you'll use your wonder clips like this, and pinch these. You can see how firm it is, right? No, I have not had any issues with my sides rolling in. And this shade here, it has been to shows and back. I have had this thing coming and going everywhere, and it is just as firm as it can be. So no problem there. Right. Now, if you have a fabric that tends to want to fray, and some of them fray a little bit more, and you can see how I've got some, I don't know if you can see, well, wait a minute. There's a little bit of, tiny bit of fraying right here. And this is where you can take and take it outside and use the fray away and spray the edges. Or you can even take and take a little bit of adhesive and on your finger and go along and seal that that edge with a little bit of adhesive. Okay, and that's what I did with this fabric here. It wanted to fray a little bit more, and so I just took a little bit of the adhesive, the laminated adhesive, and just rubbed it on the edge to seal it. Okay, we found that overlocking the edges gives a beautiful finish. Yeah, if you want to do a decorative one, you can. Now, I would caution, be really careful what you put on the edges, because it could add bulk just to the edges as the shade rolls up. And have you had any problems with that? Imagine if you just use regular thread, you could, but yeah, I think I would think about that. And because you don't want to add any of that bulk on the edges. Okay, so then you're going to take it to the machine, and then you will go ahead and just stitch right, well, on this edge here. If you wanted to serge this edge, prior to stitching it down, that would work. I think I did that. No, I didn't. But you can go ahead and serge this in here, and then fold it back, and then go ahead and top stitch through all the layers. All right. And then you can also, if you're going to be using do a roller shade, you can come to the front, and you can pinch this, and you have to measure it to make sure it's perfect, and then you can pinch it up and stitch it, do a top stitching here, so that it will fold down like this. Because this is very firm right now. Okay, and so it will create like a little, you'll be creating like a little pleat to the front. Okay, you've not had anything. Loretta, yeah, I'm going to address that in a few minutes. Can you seam 2 pieces of fabric together for double width wide shade? I will come back to that in just a second. Okay, so like I said, you can stitch through here, all right, like here. And sometimes if you want it to have additional layers coming down that are kind of pleated, then you can go ahead and do different, take another piece of laminated fabric, and then when you stitch here, you can lay that piece up underneath here, so it will lay straight, and continue with more pleats. I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but you can. Okay, but you stitch through here, and this will lay here, and then once it's stitched, then you can use this as your pull tab on a spring. Okay, all right. Then after you do that, you're going to take and cut your slat, and you will place your slat through the bottom hem, and you can seal those edges by either with a little adhesive, or you can stitch them down. And then you will take your shade and you will put it onto your tube. Again, you want to make sure that it's nice and square. All right, and of course, you know, the tubes usually have that little groove in them. And there's your double stick tape. And then you'll just bring it around, line it up. This can be a little tricky because it's not yet, my thumb stuck to the tape. Aligned on each side. Okay, so what I did, I started in the center to get it lined up with that little groove. Okay, and I can hear it go. Okay, so it's adhered to the tube, and now I can roll it this, all right, and then you will put it into your you put it into your brackets. It will go into your brackets, and this is where you can decide whether you want it to come off the front of the shade. If you want it to come off the back of the shade so that it is against the window, then you would have taken this and you would have put the had it come around to the back. Okay, I'm not going to take this off now, but come around to the back and bring it around this way and adhere it so that you can roll it this way. Okay, so someone had that question before. All right, so as you're planning out your shade and how it's going to go onto the headrail system and how it's going to be placed in the window, just keep that in mind, that you can go have it reverse mount or come off, like I say, waterfall. All right, okay, now, and this is also where you can, I will come to your question, Loretta. And this is where if you also want to add some trim to the bottom, you certainly can. All right, you can glue that down on along the bottom edge. Put some little pom-poms if you want to, or if you wanted to, and you had a little braid where you stitched your line for your little slat, you can put some trim along there too. And I have found that when you do that, you can bring it around to the back if you want to, or just tuck it under and glue that down. Okay. All right. Let me make sure I've covered everything, and then I promise I will answer your question. All right. Now, I want to show you something else too. And this I'm really, really excited about, because a lot of times clients want what they want. Let's put it that way. And you can also take and, like I said, you can, let me do this here. Hang on a second. So we have, let me start with this. We have a shade and we've put it underneath the cornice board or valance or whatever, all right? But when the shade is down, it's blackout and it's going to cover all the light. You can leave it up and there you have a reveal. But what happens if this is in someone's office and they're like, okay, 5 o'clock in the day, the sun comes down and I have to put this shade down. And I like it for the evening for privacy, but in the daytime when it comes down, my room is dark. what can I do to have a little bit more light during the day? Well, this is what you can do. This is what you can offer them. You can offer them a treatment that not only gives them what they want in here, but you can offer them a additional shade that goes onto the headrail that is semi-transparent, that it will still let some light in, but it will also block some of the harsh rays. Okay, and then I've had where clients have said, look, my house is painted black on the outside. I've got that farmhouse look, and I do not want white showing in my windows when that shade, all the time, or maybe in the evening, or even during the day. Well, guess what? You can purchase the shade fabric that comes in black. And so we have some in our home. We don't have a farmhouse, but we have some a black fabric that's semi-transparent, and so it gives us privacy when it's down. It shows black on the outside, and as we're inside, we can still see out. And so it still gives us, it filters some light, but it's also protective. It's in our dining room, but it helps protect gives us light, but it helps us protect our floors and things like that too. So this is a great alternative and something that you can add on. Now, is it taboo to use an existing retail shade? Oh, for the back of here, is that what you're saying? I'm not sure, Pam. But yet again, you're giving the client what they want. They want this, but they also want this. And how do you do that? Well, Rollies Acmeta has these brackets, and they're double brackets. Okay, so I'm going to turn this around for you. I'll put the fabric on it. I'm not sure. You would probably have to make sure that you can use the I don't know how the adhesive will marry with it. I've not tried that. So it would be something that you would probably have to test first. Okay. I'm going to turn this around. I don't know if you can see it. Well, can't see it because the cornice board's in the way. Okay. But you see here I have the two shades, and they're stacked on top of each other. Okay. So that is just another option for you, since all of you are in the custom home industry, to offer your clients. Okay. Now, let me answer some of your questions out there. Let me see what we have. So let me go back to Loretta. Now, Loretta, I have not tried putting two pieces of fabric together to have a wider shade. The thing about this fabric, the laminating, the shade fabric, it does come, it comes 72 inches wide, so I guess you could go that wide. But I've not tried to put two pieces of that together. And as far as laminating the fabric on top of it, I think that it would take a little bit of practice to do that. I know that some people have taken two pieces of fabric and pushed them up against each other and to pattern match them. But you'd have to make sure that they are here down enough so that the edge doesn't want to pop up. I've heard where some people, I've not tried it myself, but I want to, where some people have taken the fabric and they have like married two pieces of fabric together, but they might have trimmed, they might have taken, and this piece here, they might have trimmed out a little bit around the design, to say, around the design, and then taken the other piece and kind of overlapped it. Cut this out and take your other piece so it fits in like a puzzle piece. All right. and glued it down. So that would take some practice, and I would definitely test it before you attempt it to make sure that it works for you. I hope that answers your question, Loretta. Okay, let me go to the top and see if I've missed anything. Let me go to the top here. Hello, everyone. It's great having everyone said hello. And from cold country, it is cold here too. Too cold for us. Can this be done with non-room darkening fabric? Right now, as far as I know, Rolly themselves carries this fabric, which is room darkening. I'm sure that there are other, manufacturers that do have other fabric, like this one I just showed you. But I've not tried it. And again, that is something that I don't feel comfortable saying, yes, you can do it. You should do it. I think that you would definitely want to test it first to make sure that it worked. Okay. Yes, this is recorded. You'll get the link. And I think I already answered the question on the paintbrush. You probably could try, but I would roll it. No, I've never had issues with the sides rolling. The answer that I found overlocking the edges. Is there any light filtering, non-room darkening fabric that this process could be used with? I want the light to come through these shades. Again, there are a lot of manufacturers out there that do sell the shade fabric, okay? And you would have to get a piece of it to test it first. All right. And the thing about it too is, like this little fabric that I have here, it has the, when I think about it, if I look at this fabric here, it has all these little holes in there. And I would think that, the adhesive is going to go through those holes, so you'd have to make sure you protect your table. It's something, like again, I don't feel comfortable saying, yes, you can do it. Yeah, you can, Julie, you can use a little bit of heavier fabric. I know a lot of the home deck fabrics that you can use. Someone's asked me if I tried velvet yet. I have not. I want to because I love velvet. But you always have to think about the rolling factor. Okay, how well will it roll up for you? All right. Again, test it. If you need more length, those tucks at the bottom would be a great place to seam for. Exactly. And that's where I think Miss Rowley, she has shown years ago how she has used extra fabric and has tucked them up underneath there, and you make the tucks, and then you put that piece of fabric. If you make your tuck, let's pretend like this is a tuck here. To the overhead. This is for your tuck. This is really stiff. But if you move your tuck, then pretend like this is a tucked piece. And then you would stick it up underneath here. And this might have a tuck in it. And so you'll have some extra tucks in here. Oh, they do have it on clearance. I hope they don't. I didn't know that. I have some shades to do, so I better go and purchase it before they sell out of it. So anyway, all right, everyone. I hope that you have enjoyed this today, and I'm sorry that there are some questions that you've asked that there's a part of me that's, ooh, I want to try that. But again, I don't want to say yes to something and then you go try it and it's a fail, and I haven't, I haven't experienced it myself yet enough to feel confident to tell you, yeah, go for it. All right. But before we go, I just want to say that that I want you to mark your calendars for the IWCE that's happening in April. 10th through 12th, I will be there. I'm the director of Artisan Atelier. And I'm so excited because we're going to have 19 sessions. And we have a special session called The Artisan Meets the Apprentice. And if you go, you could be an apprentice right there on the floor. And then we have one seat left for March 22nd to the 24th, where Kim Shagnon, Donna Cash, and I are going to be giving a 3-day workshop in Georgia. And also in September, my business partner and I, Sharon Gregory, we host a retreat called the Craft Your Creative Life Retreat. It is a business sewing and wellness retreat. It is great. We have a wonderful time, and you have already received some information about that. And I want to invite you all back next month for Wednesday, February 14th, where we will be talking about trimming with chenille. I will have a registration for that, but mark your calendars. That is so exciting. I can't wait to bring you that session as well. I'm going to show you how to make your chenille strips and how you can use it to trim with it. And we probably all have loved some of the vintage bedspreads and all that we have grown up with. Right? Well, I've grown up with anyway. But anyway, thank you all for being here today. I hope you've enjoyed it. And once you make your shades, please put them out there on social media so that we can see them. And yeah, I can't wait. And thank you, everyone. I can't wait to see what you all have finished and whether you love it or not. All right, everyone. Thank you.